Hi, welcome back to the Virtual Light broadcast. My guest today is Kumari Mullin. She is an internationally acclaimed intuitive healer and coach, best-selling author, spiritual evolutionary, and animal mystic. Kumari's deepest joy is empowering others to unwrap their innate, intuitive, manifesting, and healing gifts. Kumari co-hosted co-creation activations on the World Puja Network, How to Heal Anything Live, an internet TV program. She is the co-author of best-selling books Empowering Transformations for Women. She penned the foreword to Journey to Joy. Her transformational work includes critically acclaimed CDs Connecting with All Life and Awaken Your Soul, the groundbreaking Divine Human course, and countless articles on healing, animal communication, manifesting, and intuitive development. She just released her latest book, her ebook called Animal Communications, Magic and Miracles, 13 Keys to Deepen Your Bond with Your Pets, Improve Health, and Change Behavior Immediately. Kumari's mission is to inspire awareness and compassion through exploring the human-animal spiritual connection as a vehicle to experience the bliss of oneness, and to be a catalyst for spiritual evolution through conscious vibrational healing. Kumari holds a powerful energetic presence where healing shifts occur spontaneously and the light and wisdom of the soul is unveiled. She teaches with a practicality and playfulness that is disarmingly potent, fully anchored in the knowing that everyone can awaken to their magical remembrance of their divine nature and spiritual gifts. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Janelle, and everyone, Steve, Barbara.
It's so nice to finally get you here. I've talked to you on Skype and on the phone, but it's so nice to have you live and in person all the way from Florida.
Yeah, and I've been watching Steve from a distance for many, many years.
For years.
So I feel very grateful.
Excellent. Well, Kumari, I'd like to start off, if you don't mind, asking you to give a brief history of your training and your background, because it's just so fascinating. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that quickly. You are
fascinating or bizarre.
attorney of all things gone animal mystic. I mean, who does that?
I have no idea. I've only met one other attorney who's shifted into the energy healing world, and we're definitely a rare breed. When I was an attorney, my father became very ill, and I worked at Legal Aid, and he called and said he was very sick, and before I knew it, he was dying in ICU of lung cancer. And at that time, I remember vaguely thinking, there's got to be more I can do for him. You know, I had no clue about this other universe that I'm now in, but there was a deep longing, which maybe other people can relate to, that I wanted to offer more and ease his suffering, and of course any suffering that I saw. And so I believe that was my deepest longing, and that wish got heard because another colleague at Legal Aid introduced me to my first spiritual teacher right after that. So I like to say, you know, one door closes and another opens, because I truly had no clue about meditation or any of this energy healing that I now am very masterful at. And I always loved animals, but being able to connect to them at this soul level and help people awaken through their love for their animals, who knew that this was even done? So it was a whole new world for me. And I think the encouraging part is, you know, you don't have to be born into these gifts. A lot of people say, oh, that's a gift, you have that.
Right.
And they take themselves out, you know. And I think my story, if anything, can be very empowering because there's nothing further from this work than the brain of an attorney, right? So I took the cue. At that time, I was very open. I think because of my father's death, it opened something in me. And so I followed an Indian guru. I moved into ashrams. I studied Reiki, which I had never heard of before. And all these things happened very, very quickly. I just kept saying yes because I felt I needed to find answers. And this led me on this path of being an energy healer, and very early on awakened in me this ability to channel great beings and the animals, and it's been an amazingly wild ride for me. not easy. When I'm coaching my clients now who say they want to do this work, I'm like, let's take it step by step,
Right.
Because the way I did it was very challenging. But I didn't know you had choice. When Spirit, showed up and told you what to do, I thought you just did it. So I kind of jumped off a cliff a lot.
Well, thank goodness you did. And, I haven't met too many people who have lived several years in the ashram.
Yeah, decades, actually.
That's just amazing to me. Well, I know that you are an intuitive coach and an animal mystic, which I just find fascinating. Who doesn't want to communicate with animals? I mean,
It's
we all do.
probably the most fun part of what I do. And more recently, like just this week, after talking to you, I thought about what the animals represent and hold, and the shift to the Christ consciousness that we're going to talk about. They held on the planet for very long this unconditional love. And as the human heart, shrank and shrank and shrank and closed because of so much pain and suffering in the world over the eons, I believe that the animals held that space, that heart space for us. And so I see many people who would never call themselves spiritual seekers or feel like they're on a path. Their love for their animals opens them up, and my work with them has been able to help them see the spirituality that is deep within them through that love connection. And that to me is just priceless, because they just want to help their friends, their family members, and through that all kinds of things can evolve. So I'm very grateful for the animals holding that space, but I would say the tide is turning, and the humans are now holding the key.
Really?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's talk about, one thing I wanted to ask you too, you call yourself an energy alchemist. What does that mean?
Well, energy healer wasn't quite it, because healer, people think of healer as somebody who will heal them.
Put my hands on you. And,
Yeah, which of course I did for many, many years, and I was quite good at. But I began to want to teach it from the start. I always knew that the reason I wanted to do it was because it was teachable, not because I could do it, or someone else, but the fact that we all had this innate ability. So that always inspired me. So alchemy has to do with being able to transmute one state into the other. The old alchemists were trying to, make gold out of lead, right? But they were also very spiritual and mystical, and they understood that at the deepest level of existence, that there is transmutation available. In other words, creation is not solid. Nothing is actually solid. So in that vein, I was trying to find an overarching umbrella for all the people think of me as I do animals over here, and I do coaching over here, and I'm a healer here, and I do Reiki. And sometimes it's hard to find that umbrella that contains or explains what I feel like is the same thread through it all. To me, it doesn't feel any different. Whatever shows up as an issue or problem on whatever level, human or animal, there's the same underlying principles to solve it. And that is understanding that we're all energy, and that when we can claim our divine gifts of being the healer, being the co-creator, we can begin to take charge of that, manage our energy differently, and shift it.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Me too.
Well, I know that you have a course called the Divine Human Course. So tell me
Yes.
about that.
Well, it all started on right before 11/11/11, and I was woken up, as these things happen often, in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock precisely, and told to go meditate. My guides were saying, go meditate. So I'm sitting there, and I received this very visual and physical key. And I was in awe. I actually started crying because I could feel the profound nature of this gift. Of course, I had no idea what it was or what it meant, and so I asked for a description, and they gave me one thing, and they said it's the key to the portal of perfected light. This is one of 3 keys that you'll be given. And that was it.
Good night. Okay.
Sayonara. And so I was begging for more information, and all I got was, you know what to do with it. You know, not you will know, you know. And so I was stumped and excited and elated and tearful, and I knew it was very profound. So I woke up my poor partner, Kumara, and I said, I need to share what's happening. Something's happening. 4 hours later, I went back into the Egyptian and Atlantean temples, and I had full recall that I taught about this key to the portal of perfected light. And I understood all kinds of things that they said I knew, but before that moment I had no idea. And so the Divine Human Course came out of this very first teaching and sharing of this first energy key. And it happened on 11/11/11 with Maureen Moss in Carmel. We had a group of people there. And up to the minute, I wasn't sure I'd be able to share it. It was that new, and I was really told that it has to be timed perfectly, and everyone has to be ready. And so thankfully they were. It was extraordinary. People had been working for 30 years with energy, and very advanced people there. And they said they had never experienced this before. So I felt validation, because that's how I felt. I felt like this was a totally new template that was being offered. And so that same day, Jim Self of Mastering Alchemy claimed that the Christ consciousness came back on the planet, because he was teaching elsewhere. Patricia Cota-Robles said the perfected or Christed light had returned. And so I thought, game on, something is up.
Amazing.
And
what does that mean, the Christ energy is back on the planet?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was calling up too, going, what are we doing?
Did he
What's
go?
happening?
Did Christ?
Is
did
perfected
energy
light,
go away?
Christed light, is this the same? I mean, I was a bit stumped myself, because it hadn't unfolded yet what that meant. Even though I was raised Catholic and very familiar with Christ, at this level, it was all quite different. And so I was instructed to begin teaching a 6-month advanced course based on these keys. And I have to tell you, it was the most profound work I've ever done, and a little hairy, because it was coming in literally as I'm teaching it. It was live. And then what happened at the end was calling in the Christ consciousness. So the work was about creating sacred relationship with the earth energies, understanding ourselves as co-creators, understanding our pivotal role in our ascension process, and of course, tapping back into ancient wisdom and making that once again available. So the keys we had worked with before, but they had not been available for quite some time. And they really are the portal to this Christed or perfected light. So the Christ consciousness is an ever-evolving answer. What is that? I believe that we are all Christed beings. We have that potential. And that the being Yeshua came as Christ or Jesus in that time, but now is coming in a way that I'll share with you in a moment, to enhance the ability that we have to hold more love, to hold a higher frequency light and love that we just couldn't do before. We couldn't hold that in our physicality. And so Christ consciousness is not a teaching. There's nothing I can say about it. It's an experiential being in a higher dimensional realm that just makes it easier and softer. And it's like the harshness of the physical world falls away. I know we talked about that a little bit. There's a softening in this love that makes it easier to trust, easier to just... there's like layers of worry and fear that I believe were mass consciousness layers that it is peeling away. So I'll have to get back to you on what it is, because I'm exploring it myself. I don't have the answer. I think it's something that we're all supposed to experience and begin to define for ourselves what that means. But it's, simply put, a higher vibration of love that is now accessible, and not just for me.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about, it's about receiving that energy, this higher vibration of love. So how do we receive that? It's so difficult for so many of us, because we feel like, that we're not deserving, or that, that's for you, it's not for me. And so how do we do that when I don't feel good enough? So many of us.
Those are so many layers we all have, the not good enough, the I'm a sinner,
Right. We've been fed so
We've
much.
been fed, or I haven't done enough. I haven't been in an ashram long enough. I haven't meditated enough. I haven't chanted enough or done pranayama. we all have layers of that. And this, I have to tell you, is the greatest gift, because there's nothing that we need to do to receive this. And I only had the second piece of this after the Divine Human course. I shared with you about writing the book Journey to Joy. I was asked to write a foreword, and I had no idea what I was going to write. I was asked at the last minute, and so all of a sudden it was up, and I was sitting asking for, well, I'd like to be in joy if I'm going to write about joy, right? So that was the first thing, like, it'd be nice to be in joy. And then and I thought, no, that's not enough. I want the writing, the very book itself, to be the transmission of joy to everybody who picks it up. And that's when it happened. The next part of this Christed connection, I went outside and sat and waited for my instructions about what the heck I was going to write. And as soon as I made that intention about being a transmission of joy, I got one of my dearest, most profound desires of all time, which was to physically be with Christ, to know, feel, touch, see. And of all the spiritual journeys that I've been on and the ability to channel great beings, I hadn't had that one, and there he was in my garden, standing in front of me, as soon as I asked for joy, or to be the transmission. And the very next thing, after I was able to touch his cheek, which was so profound, and actually see him, and I'm often not that clairvoyant, I feel and know more than I see. Right. So this was exquisite for me. He stepped forward into me.
Merged.
Fully merged, just jumped into me. And as he's doing that, it took about a second, I heard the words, "You're now ready to give the full anointing." So when you ask how,
so you're talking about Yeshua, Jesus, and did you see him as?
Because I did, because I asked for that. I felt a strong connection.
You're a little Catholic girl, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
I need the robes and the beard.
I did. I'm like, I knew him. I felt I knew him, and I wanted to see him as I knew him. And so I know that's not important on some level, the physical realm.
Of course not.
But that's what I wanted. That was my dream. And so that's what I got. That's not everyone's dream. I don't think it has to come in that form.
Doesn't matter, no.
It doesn't matter. But for me, that was the cherry on top of the experience, was to connect more personally and to have my personal spiritual hero standing there.
So you have your superhero, and now this is your new job, to help anoint.
Apparently, I had no idea. Again, I was not given any instructions. It was just like done, it's all done. And when I asked him to teach me about it, there was nothing, no teaching. But when I did have an extraordinary experience of when he merged in me, it was as if I wasn't big enough in that moment. There wasn't enough space in my physicality, there's still too much density in my form to take in this
massiveness,
massive energy. And so it was very playful this time. It wasn't like this big detox or anything, but it was kind of like he's in there, doing like a feng shui rearrangement of stuff and throwing
cleaning
a lot
house,
out.
Huh?
Definitely cleaning house. So I stayed very still for that. I knew there was something major going on. I stayed out on the porch all night. I never came in. My husband came in to look at me, and I was like, he knew something was up. So the next morning he said, "What's happening?" And I said, sit with me. This is happening. And I said, I was told I could do this anointing, so I'm going to ask you, if this works. And so I just began to, I got some oils, essential oils, and blessed him in third eye and the heart and the feet, and asked him if he wanted this. That was really all there was to it, was, does he want this experience of the Christed energy in the form of Yeshua in this moment and this higher love? So he actually, before I told him what was happening, I asked him, and he said that he felt soft love. I said, what do you feel? Because something is definitely going on. And then I said, who do you feel? Who does it feel like? And he has never, neither of us have ever channeled or claimed we were hanging out with Christ in this way. And he says, it's Christ.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay.
Well, explain to me, who is Christ now? Because we know we know he was in the Bible, and there's that whole story, but that was 2,000 years ago. What is your feeling, or your I
asked him, because I have no clue. So I asked him, when you asked me that, I said, who is Yeshua now? And he used the word Yeshua because that's how he preferred. It was the Aramaic, I think, of Jesus. He said, I am the portal to perfected light or Christed light. He's the portal. So he is an easy doorway to this this higher consciousness. And I know we don't perhaps need form, to go into the formless or the oneness or the source energy, and yet I believe form can make it so much easier. So that is the way I feel his work. He doesn't give me a lot of details. There's not a lot of teaching to it. It's really something to experience.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I don't even know where you go with that, but I know you call yourself a teacher of teachers, and I know that we talked.
I've been told that. I don't call. I try not to call myself anything because it changes every moment how I feel in it. But I was told by Jim Self actually that my role was to teach the teacher's mastery, and I have seen that my students are, even though they don't know it or claim it, a lot of times they're fairly advanced already. And so a lot of times they need support and validation of who they are to take that next step. And this anointing, what I have seen with my students and clients, I've shared it a bit. It's still fairly new. I shared it at the end of a couple of retreats that I was doing. And I didn't really know how people would receive it, of course. But what was happening was so easy. It was so simple. All they had to say was, yes, I would like to experience this anointing into this higher love. Whether they were Hindu, they were Muslim, they were agnostic, they were shamans, it had nothing to do with anything. It had to do with their yes. Whether they received it or not, it was choice. It was fully choice. And to get to 100% yes, like you said, a lot of our layers of unworthiness are in there. So it's simple, but it's not easy to get to that clear, strong yes. But that's what I want the message to be, is it can be that simple. It was my asking to be a transmission of joy that brought that most joyful experience for me.
And you say that this stays with you too. It's not just like a drive-by, a drive-through, I should say.
No.
But it's something that can stay with you.
But I have found that when it's done, it's done. Just like the Reiki attunements. I've been a Reiki master for many years. Reiki is attuned when the attunements happen. What I have noticed helps enhance it, though, is our own presence with it, our checking in. So every day, many times a day, I'd say, Yeshua,
Still there?
Are you still with me? Are you still hanging out, And that curiosity and that asking and that longing for that connection is the fuel. It's not a doing so much as a remembering to continue asking,
I like that. So now, is this I know it's very new for you. It's very, very new. So is this something that you're offering your
I am.
Your students, or for anybody that
yes,
would like
my private
to
clients love it, and I have done it, like I said, in some retreats. And so probably the next time I'll be sharing this, many things are coming through with Yeshua, a new healing technique he's been sharing with me, abilities that we used to know and have when we were Essenes and other advanced light workers, like unplugging from aging. He's been teaching me that. So
we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a whole nother show.
That is a whole nother show. So I anticipate, although I still haven't gotten the exact date, that in January I will begin teaching the Divine Human class again with these new
fantastic
new attunements or anointings and teachings. Yeah.
Well, we didn't get to talk much about your book, and we're out of time. So I want to let people know that, because I've read the book and it was fabulous.
Thank you.
The Animal Communications, Magic and Miracles, 13 Keys to Deepen Your Bond with Your Pets, Improve Health, and Change Your Behavior Immediately. It was an excellent book. Also, I know that you have another book you're working on called, maybe not named yet, but it's about animals as masters.
Yes, I have, with all my work with the animals, I have met a few who have showed me that they are no less spiritual masters than the great gurus that I have studied with, and far surpass anything I have been able to do in this body. So my hat's off to them, and I wanted to let the world know that there exist some great, great beings in animal clothing, that it's not
Bird and
limited.
feathered, huh?
Yeah. You just never know who you're hanging out with. So,
well, I can't wait to hear more about that because
yeah.
it's just so fascinating. And thank you so much for being
you.
here. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it so much. And stick around. We're going to be right back with some more Virtual Light broadcast.